Guys, we got new stock deliveries 3,300 for last week. And then we also got some interesting news. Apparently, Lotus, or aka Geely, is going to be one of the partners for NIO's battery swap. Very interesting. And also, what is going on with NIO stock? It's been crashing quite a lot. And today, as recording this video, it had made another 52-week low. So we're going to talk about that. What went wrong? What is going wrong? All right. And why are the delivery numbers not so good? So first of all, 3,300. I guess the best way to say is it's not good. Some of you guys might say it's pretty bad. But I want to remind you guys that if you look at the market share, right, NIO still has a very high percentage market share, 45%, in the pure EVs above 300k RMB. So NIOs are still very expensive. So as a result, they're not selling that many. But the other reason, we'll talk about that, all right, in a bit. But of course, the other argument is, well, as a growth company, you'd want to see deliveries grow. And it's looking like so far this month in November, we're pretty much pushing at 13,000, maybe 14,000. And year over year, if it's around 13,000, it's going to be a year over year decline. So it might not look that good. You know, you never want to see a year over year decline in growth, you know, especially with so many vehicle models out there. So that is a very interesting thing to think about, okay? But what is the core reason behind all this? And before we talk about the core reason behind the sales decline, we also got to talk about Geely, all right? So apparently Geely, and if you guys didn't know, Lotus, NIO's the shareholder in Lotus, and so Lotus is pretty much Geely, all right? Geely is also going to be the next partner for NIO in terms of battery swap. It makes sense for Lotus to become a partner in battery swap. NIO CEO has been a presenter at a Lotus launch event, which is very interesting. You know, that really speaks to volume about how heavily connected these two companies are, even though they might not seem that connected. And it absolutely makes sense. A lot of the service that NIO is offering, Lotus also offers, like the door-to-door tire repair service. Lotus also has their own service vans, which are very similar to NIO's, and it would absolutely make sense if Lotus offers battery swap as well. Now, when it comes to the sales decline, I think one of the core reasons is, well, there's lots of reasons, right? Competition, not enough incentives, but another core reason that somebody brought up recently is because, of course, NT3 is coming very soon. And this person, he has criticized, and I share the same criticism. You don't really see any other company that names their vehicle models via the technology generation, right? You don't really see that. It's only NIO saying this is the first gen, this is the second gen, this is the third gen. And as a result, it's sort of like that feeling where they're about to launch the iPhone 15. Are you going to buy, you know, another iPhone 14, or are you going to wait until the iPhone 15? So it's sort of like that kind of situation. It really makes people want to wait until the next gen product comes out, which we'll talk about whether or not that's going to be game changing. And that's apparently coming with the sub-brand car. So some notable things that have been leaked with the patents and everything. So NT 3.0 cars will move the LiDAR from the top of the car to the inside of the car. And actually InnoVision, which is the partner for NIO's LiDAR, has been showcasing this tech at the auto shows. So we can pretty much expect that to happen, LiDAR inside the car, because we don't really want that on top. It kind of doesn't look that good sometimes. And then on top of that, one really big feature that a lot of people have been asking for is rear wheel steering. A lot of cars do have that, and it's really a big factor for a lot of people because, you know, for the ES8, it's a very long car. It would be very beneficial if that had rear wheel steering. So that's coming as well for select models in the future, of course. And also tri-motor configuration. That will be a massive boost to performance as well. Very, very good. Interior of the car, the screen is finally going to be horizontal. This is pretty much confirmed. That is a big change as well, because I would love horizontal screens on a NIO. So some people are waiting for this, are waiting for the third gen product. And some people are saying that perhaps this is going to hurt sales even more, but I think the opposite will happen, because remember what happened back when you only had first gen cars like mine, and then they announced the ET7, which was the first second gen car. What happened? Sales increased. Why? Because they saw a bright future for the car company, for NIO, right? They like the tech that NIO has, but some people perhaps did not want to wait a year for the ET7 to come out. They wanted to get a NIO right there and then, so they got an existing NIO, ES6 or anything like that, and the incentives back then were pretty good. Could it be very different this time? We might see a similar situation where, launch of NT3, a lot of hype, everybody's excited, and people, because of the excitement and maybe the big step up in technology, they might use the Thor chip and all that kind of stuff, then perhaps people might get more interested in NIO and buy a second gen car, right? And instead of waiting so long for a third gen car, they just might buy a second gen car. This worked before, maybe it will work again, but this time it might be different, because in 2024 there's going to be taxes, which I've talked about in my previous video, one of my previous videos, and also there's no more subsidy to get people to buy an EV. It's going to be a pretty tough situation, in my opinion. Now, a lot of people have been criticizing NIO for having so many vehicle models and still not being able to deliver that many cars. And look, the thing is, having a lot of vehicle models has nothing to do with deliveries, okay? And the thing about it is, the aim of it is, of course, to get more of the market, more niches. But what ends up happening is, if people are committed to your brand, NIO, they're probably just going to choose between which cars they want. In other words, sales of this new car might cannibalize sales of previous cars, etc. Now, I don't think that NIO has way too many cars, because NIO's strategy is very much BMW-like, because they design cars for the intention of how to make the car better and feature, right? Feature driven. And it's pretty much the same car, but with different outer shells, like the ET5 and ET5T, different outer shells. And it's a mix and match between the motors, the comfort of the seats, the design, etc. And it's pretty much the same chassis, And with that formula, you're able to mix and match things. And, if you want to get all the best, then of course you get the ES8. And if you want to nitpick which ones you want, you get different products. So the core of the car is pretty much the same, but it's the outer shell that's very different. So that's why they were able to launch so many different vehicles. So you guys might be thinking there's no need for NIO to launch that many cars, but if you think about it, look at where BMW is at with their gas vehicles. They got everything from X1 all the way to X7, right? And that's the SUVs, and then the sedans in between, right? It's pretty much NIO's trying to do the same thing, right? You got better engines in the X5 than the X1, of course, and the X7 has better engines than the X5. It's just like that. And same with NIO. The motors in the ES7 are better than the motors in the ES6. The comfort of the ES8 is much better than the comfort of the ES6. The problem is the EV market hasn't really grown or matured to the point where, you can see the same level of success that BMW had in the gas market. People here in China are still stuck with the dilemma that the thinking that EVs are supposed to be cheap and EVs are supposed to be just inconvenient, and it's very dumb to spend a lot of money on an expensive EV. People are still stuck in that mindset. So there still needs to be more time for the market to mature. But the problem is, of course, NIO is burning a lot of money. And look, the money is going mostly to infrastructure and R&D. And I'm sure that NIO knows how much they're burning. NIO knows the limits of their resources. They've said this before, the CEO. So if things are going to go bad and get out of hand, they would know to pull the plug on certain things. All right. So deliveries aren't good, yes, but there's good things coming. The future is going to be bright for NIO. All right. And clearly, if there wasn't a bright future for NIO, then you wouldn't see all these partners trying to partner up with NIO. That's something to think about.